Siren Crew, Season 10 starting now. What's splashing? Welcome to Season 10, Episode 7 with me, your host, Lashanti the Siren. And today's guest is the famous Mrs. Jacklyn Chisolm Lightbourne, who's an associate professor at the University of the Bahamas. Welcome to the show.
Oh, great to have me, and I'm happy to be here.
Yes, very excited to talk to you about your journey. As I started telling you a little before the show, I have had so many guests in past episodes reference you as the person who really, really inspired them to pursue their careers in conservation and environmental science. So I'm very interested to hear about your journey and all of your inspirations. And let's just get the conversation going. So please tell us about who you are and what got you started in this field.
Okay, my name is Jacklyn Chisolm Lightbourne. I am number 7 of 10 children, all of whom are still alive, and so is my mother, who will be 90 this year. I attended my primary school. I'll go far back as that. I attended Mabel Walker Primary School. I attended C.H. Reeves, and I graduated from the Government High class of '86. Very excited, and went on to College of the Bahamas. Later on, pursued a Bachelor's of Science with the intent of doing a double major in biology with chemistry at UWI. And then later on, I started a master's in marine resource and environmental management. At UWI, I got an internship with ICA to look at cell wall changes in ripening fruits. And that kind of took a turn, and it completed. And then I went on and I did a master's in marine management at Dalhousie University. And then I came back to the Bahamas and I worked at Atlantis. In between my first master's and this one, I worked at Atlantis, and the first part of the project, I worked in the project office when they were setting up the marine resorts, the tanks, the observatories, and all that. And so I was a part of the project office where that actually was happening. And I met a lot of persons who were actually doing the foundation work. And so you had a lot of opportunities to interact with marine biologists, marine engineers, etc., oceanographers, and everybody else who were part of the project. And I remember a guy named Bill Cates. He said, "You shouldn't be here. You need to go off." Too much to offer. And so I left there, and eventually I went and I was working at Bahamas Baptist Community College, and I transitioned from there to University of the Bahamas, then College of the Bahamas, and I've been there ever since. And at my journey at College of the Bahamas, now UB, was a very interesting one. From the time I went into COB, I hit the about my work. I became very passionate about the exchange I had between me and students, and the way I was able to impact them and to share the information I had, and how receptive they were to receiving it. So that's how it all kicked off for me.
That's exciting. And like I said, I definitely wish that I did have the opportunity to have you as a teacher, because I've heard how exciting and how vibrant all of your classes were. And I am curious, as you started teaching things at UB, because back then when you first started, and we do have a shout out, love Miss Chizzy. When you had first started, I know there was not as we see now, the small island sustainability, the SIS course. How were you able to kind of give students that inspiration without there being a square cut, area for them if they were interested in things like conservation and environmental science?
Um, the opportunity came because I was always in the field. One person who always kept me connected with my area of expertise was Mr. Michael Brennan. Kudos to Mr. Michael Brennan. Love him to death. Yeah, he always kept me in connected with my work. So anytime the Department of Fisheries, and Eleanor Phillips was there at the time, so they could tell you how long ago that was.
Wow.
And so any projects or anything like that, and Mr. Brennan would always call me and ask me, to join them or to be a part of it. But at the time, COB at the time did not have the SIS program. But what they did have was a marine biology course. And so I was able to, every time they offered the course, Mr. Lionel Johnson would allow me to teach it because I was hired at UB to teach chemistry, not biology. I was hired to teach chemistry and marine biology. So I was taken over from another professor who was Mr. Max Massey, and he was teaching marine biology and chemistry. So I was hired to teach chemistry with my background from UWI and um, biology. And so I was always given the marine biology the course to teach, and I was also given an ecology course to teach. And so as a result of that, at every opportunity I had, I could it allowed me to share, give them more experiential learning experience. So I always took the learning out of the classroom, and it was amazing to see how welcoming students found it when you could take when they could actually explore the materials covered in the classroom outside the classroom. So I remember taking a group to San Salvador, my first group. Um, there was
Wow.
a lady, Dr. Tika Grant. She's a medical doctor now, but Tika was one of the first set of students I would have taken to San Salvador. And subsequent to that, there's Linda Hamilton, and everybody know Linda. She's at Dolphin Keys over at Atlantis. And
Oh, wow.
Linda was I call my daughter. And so we went to San Salvador, and eventually I was attached to the Bahamas Biocomplexity Project. So we were very instrumental in data collection um, and so on. In addition to that, I would partner with other universities who brought students to the Bahamas. And so through that, I was able to share my knowledge and gain knowledge from those professors who brought their students down. And so I was given chance like to present to their students, to go on field trips with students, to lead field trips, etc. So even though I didn't have the SIS on the ground initially, the opportunities were still there to explore all the resources, to take students into it. And the amazing thing was the marine classes were small. The marine biology classes were usually very small,
Nice.
because people were afraid of marine. They were afraid of allowing their kids to go in the water
Oh,
and to do
wow.
stuff like that. People, and then a lot of people wanted their kids to be doctors.
Yep.
And you remember there's Lindy. I'm sure you came across Lindy in your travels.
Yes, of
Lindy
course. We work
knows. Um, right. So Lindy was one of my students, and Lindy was gung ho on doing medicine, and he took an ecology class. And need I say any more?
together.
That took a
Yeah,
complete turn. He went from one end of the spectrum to the complete other end, and he's done
that's awesome.
extremely well in his area.
I know. I always tell him he definitely. I got to nail him on the show at the beginning of the season. I'm so happy I was able to, and he did reference you in his journey. So yeah, like I said, I feel like so many of my guests talk about you and how amazing it's been for them to have you. And I am curious. You mentioned how the marine biology classes were small. Did you ever start to see that increase over time? Like, did students start to get more interested in it? Were people starting to lose their fear of the ocean, or did it always stay as a small class?
No, it changed when we went into the small island sustainability classes. It did not only change because the number changed. There was a shift in how people viewed the marine environment, and there was also a shift in the way persons saw new areas that their children could go into. So
Right.
we had a lot of new students coming into wanting to do marine biology, and at the other end of it, we had an amazing thing with the Ministry of Education. So the Ministry of Education, and again, Marcia Musgrove would remember this. The Ministry of Education saw the need to put marine biology in the school, and so CV Bethel, when it started, became the Marine Magnet School for the Bahamas.
Mhm.
And that school, it got students excited to want to do marine biology. So we now had a feeder to come into the university. So students came into the university now very eager to want to do marine biology and to do environmental related work or studies. So the paradigm shift when the shift happened at a curriculum level at the Ministry of Education. And the person I have to give kudos to Louise Barry, who saw the need for that. So kudos to Ms. Barry, who really pushed along with getting that program and getting that curriculum developed. And the person who was really on the ground with it as well, apart from Marcia Musgrove, was Mrs. Johnson. Um, and so she brought a lot, and that group at TV Bethel, they did an amazing job because when the students came to UB, they were so eager. They wanted more and more. And so the program developed. And so we had a rich program that fed into the Small Island Sustainability Program because they had that Marine Magnet School at CV Bethel.
I love that, and I'm hoping one day we can see more marine science magnet schools pop up around not only just New Providence but in other islands as well. I think it would be such a great idea to see that happen. But I am
I also
curious,
wish that I also wish that even if they don't have a marine magnet school, they offer marine science or marine biology as an option in
yes,
school. And
yes,
even if they don't do it BGCSE, they certainly could take it to the next level, which is AP biology. So we could create an AP biology lends itself to marine biology.
yeah,
It also lends itself to a whole heap of other like environmental science as well. But we certainly could develop it so that we can have students who will know there are other fields apart from medicine and other associated medical kind of health related jobs.
definitely. You know, and like you said, we've been talking a bit about how students came through these programs, and they're now doing university-related topics in it. But for you, what inspired you to go and pursue the master's you got in marine science and natural resources, and your bachelor's you did biology and chemistry? But at what point did you decide to take that shift into something more environmental? And what made you do that?
Um, I had a professor at UWI. Um, actually, were three of them. Um, this is Dr. Oxenford and Dr. Hunt. Dr. Hunt channeled me into the ecological component of it. So he would come in. I remember a lecture with him. He walked in the class and he took us through the whole shift from when man came to Earth and how man transformed the Earth, and how, if you put it in perspective of a timeline, we did it in 1 year. So man was able to transform the whole Earth in 1 year in geological time, if you put it in that like that. And I was so fascinated by the way he delivered the material that I was like, oh, I think I should channel all my courses towards what he teach. And so I had Dr. Hunt, I had Hazel Oxenford, and Dr. Satrina is who allowed me to do some research in microbial stuff associated with her. I worked with her when she did some microbial stuff, some microbial work, and I was fascinated by that. And all the marine work. And Dr. Fields was my marine biology teacher. And I remember going on field trips at UWI, and it took me in so many places. And when I went on their beaches, I'm like, oh my God. Anyone who's familiar with UWI would know Blair Ayres Institute, where all of the Canadian students would come down to research. And so I started to spend a lot of my time with those Canadian students, and I would volunteer to work with them. I'd volunteer to be their go-to girl and help them with their research. And there was one student who was looking at coral coral propagation, and I think she's a PhD extraordinaire right now in Canada, and she was looking at growing corals, and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to be able to do that kind of research. And so I went back to WI. I got a CETA grant, a CETA scholarship. When I finished my bachelor's degree, I ended up receiving a CETA scholarship, and I went back and started the Marine Resource and Environmental Management program that took me even deeper into marine biology, into marine conservation, into marine everything, right? So I was able to do a little bit of ecotourism. I was not a lot. I was able to do a little bit of con- um, mangrove conservation, a lot of stuff. A lot of work was covered in that program. And I didn't finish there. I came back to Nassau with the hope of doing my graduate project here. And that didn't work out. So at the end, I ended up completing my degree at Dalhousie University. And that's
Nice.
why I did the master's there. But outside of that, it was all the input from my teachers, persons I met along the way. I worked with a guy, Milton Horton, from the Caribbean Fisheries Unit. And again, I give my kudos to Mr. Michael Brennan.
I love that. Did you ever think that you would become similar to some of the teachers that you've named, so those professors, or did you would also now become this person that has inspired so many students to pursue careers in these sciences?
Not really. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I did not see it. I still, like, I still kind of taken when people say, I get uncomfortable when they say, oh, all your students, like on Friday, I went to a celebration of 20 years with the organization.
Yeah.
And I was almost uncomfortable and how many students were there. But I smiled. I felt so good in my soul because there were so many people who benefited from the program offered at university. And I was able to be a part of their journey to take them to where they are. So that was incredible.
Yeah.
And very
So,
often I find myself in those spaces where we run into students who would have benefited from being exposed to what I had to offer.
that's exciting. And then what would you say is your most memorable moment in teaching some of these natural resource courses over the last like 25 plus years I think you've had so far?
Whew. Um, I had a lot of memorable moments. My first memorable moment was with the twins in San Salvador. They came into the class and they said, "Oh, we're expert swimmers. We're on the swim team. We came from the swim team from SAC, and we're swimmers, right?" And I said, "Okay, but when we go into that reef, I want everybody to put on a life vest. I don't care how well you could swim." And I remember one of the twins said, "No, I could swim. I know. I could. I'm good." And there's a difference in the depth of the water. When you look at the reef, you feel like you could literally stand on it.
Yeah.
And it's not a pool. The ocean is not a pool. So when she decided that she was going to stop, she stopped to stand on the reef, and the water was deeper than she was, and this super swimmer panicked, and I remember having to go under her and swim and drag her back to the shore. And she said, "Oh, I guess I'm not that great of a swimmer, right?" And then another time, this is my greatest time I had with my students. I had a really awesome group of marine biology students, marine science students, and I could just call them by their initials, OP and Star and Lauren. And I remember we were on this particular project, and even before that, one of our students, OP, was terrified of the water. She couldn't swim. And another one was Danielle. They could not swim. One of them couldn't even take water going in her face. And today, they are both PADI certified, open water divers. Okay. And
So
to me, to take a student from where they're terrified of water to a point where they just cannot get enough of it and can't wait for the next dive or the next opportunity to go in a blue hole and just swing from the ropes and dive. To me, that's really amazing.
that is exciting. You almost sound like our very own Miss Frizzle, like from the Magic School Bus. That's what it's feeling like. You took them on the cool field trips. They got to
Oh
learn
my God,
stuff.
that's exactly how it used to be.
There you go. So I'm not too far off. And then would you say that
Yeah.
story you just referenced it would be considered your biggest accomplishment, or do you have another kind of moment that you feel like this was my biggest accomplishment in my career? The deep one. Mm.
My biggest, well, in my career, um, um, my biggest accomplishment was, well, there's so much. Well, my biggest accomplishment is when I saw the first group of SIS students graduate. Um, and I knew that journey to get to where they were, and not even so much the first group, but the second and the third group. That was absolutely amazing group of students, because I grew with them, I worked with them, and we have persons like Michael Bolek. He's doing his PhD now in Europe, and he's working
Mhm.
with he's working with climate change. And then there's persons like all the students. They have found themselves in careers. They have, like, the program, the SIS program was designed to place people in to make them environmental stewards.
Yep.
And so when I talk about the SIS program, I get a little passionate because I know the impact it has made. And so
Yeah.
my greatest accomplishment is to actually go in an environment and see the number of students the program has placed in careers, and to see that they are making impacts the way the
Mm.
program was originally designed for. And what is so amazing is when you talk to their bosses, or you talk to persons where they might have been, they have received employment, they said when they came to me, I could just place them in a position to work. Like, they came ready. So the to me, the greatest accomplishment is how we make this, how the students were made ready through the training, through the experiential learning experience, through the workshops, and
Yeah.
so on, to be job ready and to make themselves exactly what the program is designed for, environmental stewards. And what's so critical is I also had an opportunity, like, to take some of the students to the Marine Lab in Florida.
Hmm.
Um, so on a couple of the summers, like, a group of students would go with me to Marine Lab in Florida, in Key Largo, and to see, okay, we have the Bahamas, the marine resources, the coral reefs, the seagrass in Nassau, and the rest of the Bahamas, right? And then
Hmm.
we go to Florida, and all the works are done in the marine, the reserve in Florida. And for some of it, it's very different to the Bahamas, but for the most part, it's the same. So when we see, like, when the students went to Key Largo, and then they went to Exuma Lands and see parks, or they went to Exuma Keys, it was like, oh my God, why can't we? Or, we need to ensure that this, and the whole management kick in, the whole sustainability kick in, the whole conservation strategies and stuff kick in their conversation. And you see where they grow, and you see where they mature through the whole thing.
I love that. You must feel very full of pride to see how far we've come when it comes to conservation efforts,
Yeah.
and just the increase of conservationists that we have now working, and there's so much more coming through the pipeline that are literally from, like, we're standing on the shoulders of the things that you've done and brought to the community. I know you're humble, and I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, but you definitely have had an impact, and it's so great to hear some of your greatest accomplishments. So I wonder, so what are you currently working on? Like, what's next for you? Do you think you're going to be at UB for the rest of your time? Like, how's your future laid out?
We Well, actually, I'm very right, so I have some
You,
years ahead of me.
you're
But
funny here, definitely.
yeah,
I was
I
a
got some
student.
years ahead of me. But I'm looking forward into the future. I'd like to. I run a marine science. I call it ME, Marine Environmental Science, Technology, Environmental, Engineering, and Math summer camp. And I've
Nice.
been doing that for, yeah, I've been doing that for, geez, a very, very long time, many years. It started off in my mother's living room, and I have extended it to I had partnered 1 year with the Ministry of Education, and then I have always done it out of pocket. So I would use a room at UB or a room wherever I could get a space, and I would use the volunteerism, the volunteer. My students would volunteer to help. Persons like Roberta Sweeting has always been a part of our Marine Summer Camp, and many of the other students. I get assistance from Dolphin Encounter through one of my other students, Tashala,
Yep.
Linda Hamilton again, Tashala. Yeah, Tashala always helps us to get stuff going. Helps us to get the best rate because she know the students are not. We don't charge the students for the summer camp, and I'm not getting paid or anything coming back. So she would give us just a cute little package that the parents would just have to pay to accommodate them and get a good product during the summer. The camp
Hmm.
used to run for a month, but that's when they had less expenses. My children were younger; they didn't have any. But now,
Yeah.
like I reach out to partners like the Jeff, Dion Stewart. He will always come on board, and he would give us the water bottles and the bags and everything, like to give to the students. We have my former students would sometimes one would say, "Okay, I'll pay for 5 shirts," another one would say, "I'll pay for 10 shirts," and so we get the students all suit up and stuff. And then like somebody would sponsor a boat trip or starts cold at that time. They would say, "Oh, bring them." They'll find somebody, and someone would sponsor the paid. So, but I always had to reach out to people and to them. They would partner. Yeah, you reach out to them and you get a lot of people partnering with you to get the job done. So with this Marine Summer Camp thing, I would like to take it to another level. And I would also like to work with the Ministry of Education, like to help to redevelop or to edit the curriculum so that we could
Nice.
to offer marine science at a primary school level, right? And to
That'd be
just get younger people, because that's where the change happens. The change happens exposing the younger people to information, and then they too will then transfer it. So yeah, I want to create an environment. We already have the career opportunities, and through my summer camp, um, I actually have students who came up through the summer camp who has since graduated from the SIS program, and they are now working in the industry around the world, and around
awesome.
Nassau, right? Yeah, and so I'm hoping to take that camp to another level, and um, even offer like a weekend, like in the United States they have these weekend short camps. I have a friend who was at
Hmm.
Boston in Boston, and I gave her the template, and I say try it, and she's now running it on weekends, not like long every
Awesome.
weekend, but she does a weekend camp, and that camp now feeds into her AP Marine Science program.
Oh,
So
that's
I think
awesome.
we could do stuff like that. Yeah, I think we
For
could do
sure.
stuff like that, and
So,
it would help
so
the
where could
students
someone
really.
learn more?
And
So, no,
I'm sorry.
sorry. I was saying, where could someone, if someone was listening and was interested in, whether in kind or financial donations, like for this summer camp, where would they find this information? Do they contact you directly? Is there a website, an email, a social media place that they can find more information?
Uh, they'll have to contact me directly. We had a page up on Facebook, but my page was hacked, and
Sorry.
it has. I don't even we don't even interact with the page anymore. But all the other
Oh,
information, they it reached through me. We were working with a lawyer to get set up so that we could get proper funding, and we
nice.
could offer more, and even take it to maybe I attempted it 1 year to take it to a family island, but I was only able to do it for 1 or 2 days. We did a 2 day on a family island, and so we got students from the community to come and join in with us, and
Nice.
that was amazing. But I'm sure with proper partnership, it could be taken to another level. So we
That's
have a
exciting.
lot of intellectually, yeah, we have a lot of intellectually curious young people who could benefit from these kind of programs because it
For
would
sure.
promote again for environmental stewards. It promote a spirit of conservation, a love for the environment, and a love for nature.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what's really important. I think the exposure to these topics and to this hands on learning experience and opportunity is really what opens up the mind of our youth. And whether they become an environmentalist or not, they're now more aware and they'll act as better citizens and environmental stewards to the planet as well as just to our country as a whole. So that's exciting. And I'll definitely offline probably reach out about the summer camp because that's something I'm definitely interested in. And I would love to help however I can. So as we start to wind down this episode, I know that I wanted to make sure not to go over too much time with you, but I am very interested. Who is someone in the sector, whether they are locally based or someone international, that inspires you and why?
Um, oh, my greatest inspiration, not just for the environment, but as a person. I had a teacher. Have her name was Hope Burrows. Her name is Hope Burrows McCarty, and um, Hope was my greatest inspiration because she helped me to identify stuff in me that I didn't even know existed. Through sharing and her teaching, I was able to learn how much of a leader I was. And behind the scene, um, Hope, well, Miss Burrows, we call her Miss Burrows, but her name was Hope Burrows McCarty. Um, there was this thing that she shared with me that I used for a concert, a competition I was in, and it said, you know, there are people around us that don't seem to understand what we might be going through, and there are others that just don't care. But if you could keep smiling and know that God understands and He always cares, and that has been a driver for me. And so, no matter what space I find myself in, whether it's conservation, whether it's teaching, whether it's helping somebody on the street or whatever, um, I use that as a guide because no matter what space you find yourself in, you could just keep smiling. No one has to know because the person that has the greatest concern for you is God, and He always cares and He always understands. So yeah, and then there's other people, as I mentioned before. There's Mr. Michael Brennan, um, Milton Horton behind the scene, and of course the big boys at UWI, Mr. Dr. Sean Carrington, and Dr. Hunt, Dr. Satrina, not Satrina, yes, Satrina, but Dr. Oxenford. Those people, they made quite an impact. But the person who I would really like to send kudos to is from Dalhousie University, and her name is uh, Jesus, I'm making a bad face right now. Liz. Liz was like the greatest support to me at Dalhousie, and she in the marine management program at Dalhousie, Liz was a pillar strength for me. And so when I went back to Dalhousie on the leadership award, the Canadian Leadership Award, um, Liz was there for me. I went back to Dalhousie to be at this College of Sustainability for 9 months. And during
Mhm.
that time, Liz was a great support. And again, she was the one who pushed me like, to write papers and to participate in conferences, to get materials out there, and not to be afraid, just to just challenge myself a little bit more. And I might not have done all that she said at that time, but certainly her training has been a part of me throughout the rest of my development
That's awesome.
academically.
Very
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I'll say it again. I love that you've now also become that teacher for so many people, like that professor that they remember in college that really got them interested and engaged in the environmental sciences. And I know you mentioned a bit of a quote and a word that you live by, but as far as final thoughts for viewers, what would be something you'd like to leave viewers with for anyone who might be interested in following a similar career path or who has maybe kind of not been sure if this is something for them, what would you tell them as final thoughts?
Um, as a final thought, remember that you're part of the world, and as part of the world, if you want it to be a comfortable space for you to be in, then you have to make it comfortable for other people to be in it and other organisms as well. So, from a local perspective, I would encourage persons, and I would say to them, um, if you if you want your environment to be right, you have to make it right. I like to use the expression, but I like to use my dogs. I have a lot of them, a lot of dogs, and
Okay.
I'll tell you this much: um, my dog will not eat and poop in the same place.
Right.
There's no better way to say it than that. If you want your space to be right, you cannot destroy it and then want to live in it and want to sleep in it. All right. So if you want to do it, you have to keep it clean, green, and pristine, and you have to keep it right. And I would also like to say to anyone, the sky is the limit. Conservation of our marine environment is critical. And persons and parents out there, I know growing up, people used to say the ocean don't have a back door. But I always tell my students that black mark in the sea, when you put on a pair of goggles, it comes to life. And you have to keep it clean, green, and pristine.
Hello. And I think we're having just a bit of technical difficulties. Man, I just was getting ready to hear that one part. But we'll give a few
All right.
minutes. Oh, you're back, Ms. Chisholm?
We drop. Yeah.
Sorry. You
Yeah,
were
I'm back.
saying the black
Yeah.
mark in the
Yeah. The
sea.
internet is in and out.
It's
Yeah. I
okay.
was telling you that. Yeah. Yeah. When you put on a pair of goggles, it comes to life. You get to see starfish and beautiful seagrass moving in the water. You get to see all the sea urchins and the sea cucumber. So, um, make conservation of our marine environment, our marine ecosystem, a long lasting and impressionable activity. If you see something in the ocean that shouldn't be there, just take it out and don't put it there in the first place. Marine plastic, marine debris, they threaten our ecosystems, they threaten our resources, they threaten our tourism products. Um, Again, keep it clean, green, and pristine. All
There you
right.
go.
And I would, yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has definitely been such an inspirational episode. And thank you for taking the time out on your Sunday afternoon, on this Palm Sunday, to sit and chat with me about your career. And I definitely look forward to reaching out to you offline about that Marine Summer Camp. Hopefully, anyone else who's been watching and is interested, they'll do the same. So, yeah, thank you so much. I hope that you have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you so much. Have
Awesome.
a
And
good
thank you to
evening,
all my,
all.
yeah, have a great one. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye.